Book of Heaven, Volume 17, Part 11. May 10th, 1925. Different ways of fusing oneself in the divine will. In the divine will, there is the void of the human acts, which must be done in it. I write only out of obedience, and I shall make a mix of past things and present things. Many times in my writings I say, I was fusing myself in the holy divine volition, and I do not explain further. Now, forced by obedience, I shall say what happens to me in fusing myself. As I fuse myself, an immense void, all of light, becomes present before my mind, such that one can find neither the extent of its height, nor of its depth, nor the boundaries on the right or on the left, nor those on the front or on the back. In the midst of this immensity, at a point extremely high, I seem to see the divinity, or the three divine persons, waiting for me. But this, always mentally. And I don't know how, a little girl comes out of me. But it is my own self. Maybe it is my little soul. But it is moving to see this little girl placing herself on the way within this immense empty space, all alone, shy, walking on tiptoe, with her eyes always fixed on the place where she sees the three divine persons, because she fears that if she lowers her gaze in that immense void, she wouldn't know at which point she would end up. All her strength is in that gaze fixed on high. In fact, as her gaze is corresponded by the gaze of the supreme height, she draws strength along the way. Now, as she arrives before them, she plunges herself with her face into that void to adore the divine majesty. But one hand from the divine persons raises the little girl, and they say to her, "Our daughter, the little daughter of our will, come into our arms." In hearing this, she becomes festive, and makes the three divine persons festive, as they await the carrying out of her office, entrusted to her by them. And with grace typical of a little girl, she says, "I come to adore you, to bless you, to thank you for all. I come to bind to your throne all human wills of all generations, from the first to the last man, so that all may recognize your supreme will, adore it, love it, and give it life within their souls. Supreme Majesty, in this immense void, there are all creatures, and I want to take them all in order to place them in your holy will, so that all may return to the origin from which they came. That is your will. This is why I have come into your paternal arms, to bring you all your children and brothers of mine, and bind them all with your will. And in the name of all, and for all, I want to repair you, and give you the homage and the glory, as if all had done your most holy will. But, oh, please, I pray you, Let there be no more separation between divine will and human will. It is a little girl who asks this of you, and I know that you can deny nothing to the little ones. But who can say everything? I would be too long. In addition to the fact that I lack the words to express what I say before the supreme height, it seems to me that here in the low world, we do not use the same language as in that immense void. Other times, then, while I fuse myself in the divine volition, and that immense void comes before my mind, I make my round through all created things, and I impress on them an "I love you" for the Supreme Majesty, as though wanting to fill the whole atmosphere with many "I love yous," in order to requite the supreme love for so much love toward the creatures. Even more, I make my round through each thought of creature, and I impress in them my "I love you." Through each gaze, and I leave my "I love you" within them. Through each mouth and each word, and I seal in them my "I love you." Through each heartbeat, work, and step, and I cover them with my "I love you" to my God. I go down deep into the sea, into the depths of the ocean, and I want to fill each darting of the fish, each drop of water, with my "I love you." Then, after she has as though sowed my "I love you" everywhere, the little girl brings herself before the Divine Majesty, and as though wanting to give him a surprise, she says, "My Creator and my Father, my Jesus and my eternal love, look, all things on the part of all creatures tell you that they love you. Everywhere there is an "I love you" for you. Heaven and earth are filled with them. And you, shall you not concede to your tiny little one that your will descend into the midst of creatures? Make itself known. Make peace with the human will. And as it takes its just dominion, its place of honor, no creature may ever do her will again, but always yours. Other times, then, while I fuse myself in the divine volition, I want to feel sorrow for all the offenses given to my God, and I resume my round within that immense void, in order to find all the sorrow that Jesus felt for all sins. I make it my own, and I make my round everywhere, in the most hidden and secret places, in public places, over all evil human acts, to feel sorrow for all the offenses and for each sin. I feel I would want to cry out at each motion of creature, "Sorrow! Forgiveness!" And so that all may hear it, I impress it on the rumbling of the thunder, so that sorrow for having offended my God may thunder in all hearts. Forgiveness in the striking of lightning. Sorrow in the whistling of the wind. Sorrow, forgiveness in the tinkling of the bells. In sum, sorrow and forgiveness in everything. Then I bring to my God the sorrow of all. I implore forgiveness for all, and I say, "Great God, let your will descend upon earth, so that sin may take place no more. It is the human will alone that produces so many offenses, as to seem to be flooding the earth with sins. Your will shall be the destroyer of all evils. Therefore I pray you, make the little daughter of your will content, who wants nothing else but that your will be known and loved, and that it reign in all hearts. I remember that one day I was fusing myself in the holy divine volition, and I was looking at the sky as it was pouring with rain. I felt great pleasure in seeing water pouring down over the earth, and my sweet Jesus moving in my interior with unspeakable love and tenderness told me, "My daughter, in those drops of water that you see descending from the heavens, there is my will. My will runs rapidly together with the water. It departs in order to quench the thirst of creatures, to descend into the human bowels, into their veins, in order to refresh them, to constitute itself life of the creature, and to bring them my kiss, my love. It departs in order to water the earth, to fecundate it, and to prepare the food for them. It departs for many other needs of creatures. My will wants to have life in all created things in order to give celestial and natural life to all creatures. However, while it goes toward all as though in feast and full of love, it does not receive the adequate requital, and it remains as though on an empty stomach on the part of creatures. My daughter, your will also, fused in mine, runs within that water that rains down from the heavens. It runs together with it, wherever it goes. Never leave it alone, and give it the requital of your love, and for all." But as he was saying this, my pupils remained enchanted. I could not move them from that pouring water. My will was running with it, and in that water I could see the hands of my Jesus multiplied into many, in order to bring water to all with his very hands. But who can say what I felt within me? Only Jesus can say it, he who is the author of it. And who can say the many ways of fusing myself in his most holy volition? For now I have said enough. If Jesus wants, he shall give me the words and the grace to say more, and I shall resume my speaking. In addition to this, I was saying to my Jesus, "Tell me, my love, what is this void that makes itself present before my mind when I fuse myself in your most holy will? Who is this little girl that comes out of me? And why does she feel an irresistible force to come to your throne in order to place her little acts on the divine lap, almost to make a feast for him?" And my sweet Jesus, all goodness, told me, "My daughter, the void is my will, placed at your disposal, which should be filled with so many acts, or as many as the creatures would have done, had they fulfilled our will. This immense void that you see, which represents our will, came out from our divinity for the good of all in creation, in order to make everyone and everything happy. Therefore, as though consequently, all creatures should have filled this void with the requital of their acts, and the offering of their wills to their Creator. But since they did not do so, giving us the greatest offense? We called you with a special mission to be compensated for and requited with what the others owed to us. And this is the reason why first we disposed you with a long chain of graces, and then we asked you if you wanted to live in our will. And you accepted with a yes, binding your will to our throne, wanting to know it never again, because human will and divine will do not combine, nor can they live together. Now that yes, that is your will, exists bound tightly to our throne, and this is why your soul, like a little girl, is drawn before the Supreme Majesty, because there is your will before us that draws you like a magnet. And you, instead of looking at your will, occupy yourself only with bringing onto our lap everything you have been able to do in our will, and you place our very will in our bosom, as the greatest homage that befits us, and the requital most pleasing to us. Your heedlessness of your will, and our will that alone lives in you, make us festive. Your little acts done in our will bring us the joys of the whole creation. So it seems that everything smiles at us and makes feast for us. And seeing that you descend from our throne, without even looking at your will, carrying our will with you, is the greatest joy for us. This is why I always say to you, be attentive in our will, because in it there is much to do, and the more you do, the greater the feast you shall make for us, and our volition shall pour out in torrents inside and outside of you. May 17th, 1925. More ways to fuse oneself in the divine will, in order to give God, in the name of all, the requital of love and glory for the works of creation, redemption, and sanctification. After I had let the confessor hear what is written above, with the date of May 10th, he was not satisfied, and imposed on me to continue writing about the way I fuse myself in the holy divine volition. So, only to obey, and for fear that my Jesus might be disappointed even slightly, I resume my speaking. Now, I add that as that immense void becomes present before my mind when I fuse myself in the supreme volition, the little girl continues her round, and rising up high, she wants to requite her God for all the love he had for all creatures and creation. She wants to honor him as the creator of all things, and so she makes her round through the stars, and in each twinkling of light she impresses my I love you and glory to my Creator. In each atom of the light of the sun that descends down below, I love you and glory. In the whole expanse of the heavens, within the distance between one step and another, my I love you and glory. In the warbling of the bird, in the beating of its wings, love and glory to my Creator. In the blade of grass which sprouts from the earth, in the flower that blooms, in the fragrance that ascends, love and glory. On the height of the mountains and in the depth of the valleys, love and glory. I make my round through each heart of creature, as though wanting to enclose myself within it, and cry out inside each heart, my I love you, and glory to my Creator. I would want that one be the cry, one the will, one the harmony of all things, glory and love to my Creator. And then, as though having gathered everything together in such a way that everything says requital of love and attestation of glory for all that God has done in creation, I bring myself to his throne, and I say to him, Supreme Majesty and Creator of all things, this little girl comes into your arms to tell you that all creation, in the name of all creatures, gives you the requital, not only of love, but of the just glory for the so many things created by you for love of us. In your will, in this immense void, I have wandered everywhere, so that all things may glorify you, love you, and bless you. And now that I have placed for you the love between Creator and creature in their relationship that the human will had broken, as well as the glory that everyone owed you, let your will descend upon earth, that it may bind and strengthen all the relations between Creator and creature. All things shall return to the original order established by you. Therefore hurry, delay no more. Don't you see how the earth is full of evils? Your will alone can stop this current, can place it in safety. But your will, known and ruling. Then after this I feel that my office is not complete. Therefore I descend down below within that void, in order to requite Jesus for the work of redemption. And as though finding all that he did in act, I want to give him my requital of all the acts that all creatures should have done for him, in awaiting him and receiving him upon earth. Then, as though wanting to transform all of myself into love for Jesus, I go back to my refrain, and I say, I love you in your act of descending from heaven. I impress my I love you in your act of being conceived. I love you in the first drop of blood that was formed in your humanity. I love you in the first beat of your heart, so as to mark all your heartbeats with my I love you. I love you in your first breath. I love you in your first pains. I love you in the first tears you shed in the maternal womb. I want to requite your prayers, your reparations, your offerings with my I love you. I want to seal each instant of your life with my I love you. I love you in your being born. I love you in the cold you suffered. I love you in each drop of the milk you suckled from your mamma. I intend to fill with my I love yous the clothes with which your mamma swaddled you. I lay my I love you upon that ground on which your dear mother laid you down gently in the manger, and your most tender limbs felt the hardness of the hay, but more than of hay, the hardness of hearts. My I love you in each of your wailings, in all the tears and pains of your tender age. I make my I love you flow within all the relations and communications and love you had with your mamma. I love you in each word you spoke, in the food you took, in the steps you took, in the water you drank. I love you in the work you did with your hands. I love you in all the acts you did during your hidden life. I seal my I love you in each one of your interior acts and in the pains you suffered. I lay my I love you on the roads you covered, in the air you breathed, in all the sermons you gave during your public life. My I love you flows in the power of the miracles you performed, in the sacraments you instituted, in everything, oh my Jesus, even in the inmost fibers of your heart. I impress my I love you for myself and for all. Your will makes everything present to me, and nothing do I want to leave out in which my I love you is not impressed. Your little daughter of your will feels the duty, if there is nothing else she can do for you, that you may have at least a little I love you for everything you have done for me and for all. Therefore, my I love you seals each drop of the blood you shed, each blow you received, each wound that formed in your body, each thorn that pierced your head, the bitter pains of the crucifixion, the words you pronounced on the cross. Up to your last breath, I intend to impress my I love you. I want to enclose all your life, all your acts, with my I love you. I want you to touch, see, and feel my continuous I love you everywhere. My I love you shall never leave you. Your very will is the life of my I love you. But do you know what this little girl wants? That the divine volition that you so much loved, and that you did during your whole life upon earth, make itself known to all creatures, so that all may love it, and may fulfill your will on earth as it is in heaven. This little girl wants to conquer you in love, that you may give your will to all creatures. Oh, please, make this poor little one happy, who wants nothing else but what you want, that your will be known, and that it reign upon earth. Now, I believe that obedience shall be content in some way, though it is true that in many things I had to make a few jumps, otherwise I would never end. Using myself in the supreme volition is like a springing font for me, and every little thing I hear or see, one offense given to my Jesus, is an occasion for me for new ways and new fusions in his most holy will. Now I continue by saying that my sweet Jesus told me, "My daughter, to what you have said on fusing yourself in my will, another appeal must be added, that of fusing yourself in the order of grace, in everything that the Sanctifier, the Holy Spirit, has done and shall do for those who are to be sanctified. More so since, while we, the three divine persons, are always united in operating, if the creation points to the Father, and redemption to the Son, The Fiat Voluntas Tua shall point to the Holy Spirit. And it is precisely in the Fiat Voluntas Tua that the Divine Spirit shall make display of his work. You do it when, on coming before the Supreme Majesty, you say, I come to requite you in love for everything that the Sanctifier does for those who are to be sanctified. I come to enter into the order of grace, so as to be able to give you the glory and the requital of love, as if all had made themselves saints, and to prepare you for all the oppositions and lack of correspondence to grace. And as much as you can, you search within our will for the acts of grace of the Spirit Sanctifier, so as to make his sorrow your own, as well as his secret moans, his anguishing sighs in the depth of the hearts, in seeing himself so unwelcome. And since the first act he does is to bring our will as the complete act of their sanctification, in seeing himself rejected, he moans with inexpressible moans. And you, in your childlike simplicity, say to him, Spirit Sanctifier, hurry, I implore you. I pray you again, make your will known to all, so that by knowing it, they may love it, and may welcome your first act of their complete sanctification, that is, your holy will. My daughter, we, the three divine persons, are inseparable and distinct, and in this way do we want to manifest to the human generations our works for them, that while being united among ourselves, each one of us wants to manifest individually his love and his work toward the creatures. You have reached the end of the Book of Heaven, Volume 17, Part 11. Fiat.